Hello, everyone. We're going to jump right into part two of the week three water quality testing and report. Go ahead and share my screen and we'll walk through a couple things together. Hopefully, the first video made some sense to you and it was able to give you a good idea for how to kick off this report. Like I said, which is going to be very similar to other reports you'll be doing. So, all right. So we got the initial results. We recorded those on the survey, the testing survey form. We've also completed the chain of custody form. Okay, now we're going to go down and do a couple of important things to kind of wrap this up, or the sampling portion anyway. So everything is in the sampling sheet. What you're going to do is, like I said, follow each and every one of these lines very specifically. So you're going to go back to your water sampling sheet and do our follow-up sampling. So you're going to skip a line or two on your last entry of that sampling form, and down here at the bottom, you're going to have all your initial samples up here at the top, and then you're going to want to skip down a couple lines and then start putting in your follow-up samples down there. And again, using the first five columns. Okay. So what you'll do on the follow-up is initially you found those results that you downloaded right here. Well, one of those was maybe out of line or a little bit high. So then you're going to do your follow-up results. And the follow-up results are going to go down in the lower part of um, that testing survey form that I just showed you. So what you'll do is you filled out the chain of custody form. Now you're going to fill out an additional chain of custody form. There's a follow-up right here. It says the follow-up chain of custody form. That's different from your original chain of custody form. The original chain of custody form is going to have all your original samples on it. The follow-up chain of custody form is only going to have a couple of them. And where do you get those? Right here in your follow-up results. So you're going to click on that. And then you're going to see that you only have three samples here, and they're only for lead. Copper doesn't appear because copper wasn't high on the initial samples. So you got your follow-up results right here. You're going to take those concentrations right here in this column, and here, let me close this. And then you're going to put them over here on your survey testing form. Those are going to go down here. Okay. And so then we're pretty much done with that portion of the sampling. Sampling took place. You filled out your testing survey form, your initial chain of custody form. You're going to save that as and fill out another chain of custody form. And that follow-up chain of custody form is only going to have, I'll open that up again, is only going to have these on it. You're not going to have to put all of them on the follow-up chain of custody. So all of this, as a hint, is kind of like a puzzle. It's a challenging puzzle to go through and identify all these things and all these instructions to follow, but each one is extremely important. It's just like the gospel. Make sure that you follow all the teachings of the plan of salvation, all the teachings of the gospel, to have a well-rounded experience, and to make sure that we're following the straight and narrow. And so this is no different. Make sure that you follow each and every one of these precepts. Okay, so now it's time to write the water quality testing report. Now, what does that look like? The Appendix A, as I mentioned in the intro video, is going to be pivotal. Both of them are going to be extremely important on how to do that. And so I've got both of them open here. And if I look at Appendix C, when you start looking at your water sampling sheet, again, this is going to give you a lot of the instructions on what to put there. And we covered that in the first video briefly. Also with your chain of custody form, very important to fill out. And again, you're going to fill out two of these, one for the initial samples and then one for your three follow-up samples of lead only. Um, and then, so so that's pretty much it for Appendix C. You go back to Appendix A, and that's going to teach you how to write reports. Now, the first one on here is easy to find. It's how to write a drinking water testing report. Now, make sure to kind of block off each one of these numbers or these headings and then your subheadings. Block these off as an individual document. So your title page is going to have all of these items included. Your table of contents will have all of these items. course, you have to customize these to match the assignment, but the body of the report is where a lot of the magic takes place, and that's where a lot of your content's going to live. So again, very, very important. Each one of these is important. Follow each one of these sections. And for example, describe how you conducted initial sampling. And you might say, I used plastic 1 liter bottles or glass bottles. Maybe they're, soft flasks or they're plastic rubbery, flexible bottles. And you want to make sure and record that and talk about, who you walked around with and maybe how far you walked or how long it took. Maybe you stopped for a lunch break, things like that. Include some details so it feels like you actually went and did an inspection. And then your follow-up samples, you're using 3 smaller bottles. You don't need to collect as much, water for those, but make sure and catch the first drop so you get, a good sample as if somebody was to drink the first drop coming out of the drinking fountain, and maybe you hand delivered it or you sent it. So make sure to include those details. All very important, and it's going to make for a well-rounded report. And then the rest of this is going to talk about other assignments that you'll be working on, like the pool inspection report. But okay, so going back to the assignment, I'll try and point out a few other things of importance. One of those is making sure that you look at the rubric. Now, this is a long rubric, and as I mentioned in the first video, make sure and look at the first left column of, make your paper or your report distinguished. You want to make it proficient and get the maximum amount of points possible. And focusing on this left side and not the right side will help to make that possible. But just make sure and follow the guidance in each one of these. For example, your title page needs to have the name of the client, the location, the date, the name of you inspecting it. And it says the name of the company. You can make it up. You can just make up whatever company name you want, but you want to make it its own page. And then your table of contents is pretty simple. You do want to have what's called a dot leader, which you've got those little dots between kind of the title and then the actual page number that it's on. So make sure to follow that. And then your introduction. And again, you do want to make sure and be clear as what are your deficiencies or what are the problems that you find. And you might say that, for example, the water may have lead in it because it uses lead pipes and the lead pipes are deteriorating and maybe they're old. And so that might be something to think about. But in your text, in your chapter 3, is where you're going to find a lot of those things, a lot of hints of, what could be going on if I have this type of result or this type of sample. So make sure to refer to your texts clearly and often, and that'll give you some really good info to include in your report. But as I mentioned, make sure to do a good job and be really clear and thorough on all of these, writing mechanics, the formatting, the appendix, all those things. And I will show you one more resource on this before I close the video. This is typically what a report is going to look like. This will just give you a little bit of a visual to see what what the components look like. You've got like your title page, your table of contents, the body of your report, which is going to have a lot of content in it. Your narration or your narrative is going to be here. Your introduction is going to be here. And then you're going to either copy and paste your results pages here, or you could do screenshots of them. Either one works, but I like screenshots personally. But and then you're going to have your chains of custody here, both chains of custody, and then include a screenshot or a copy and paste of those initial results and then your follow-up results. And this is your complete report. Most of these longer assignments, there's 4 of them, are going to be 8 to 10 pages. And they should follow a very similar format to this. So that pretty much concludes this week 3 testing inspection and report. Again, any questions that you have, please don't hesitate to reach out so I can help you with those. Okay, thanks and good luck.